Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be episode 168 for you guys today. Of course, this episode is going to be coming out on all four of our platforms: our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So let's go ahead and dive into the first segment of the episode this week. I'll be sharing my thoughts and opinion on which NFC team will be the biggest threat to the San Francisco 49ers heading into this upcoming NFL season. So, as you guys remember, last year the 49ers were the runner-ups of last year's NFL season, with the Kansas City Chiefs defeating them in the Super Bowl and a thriller that went all the way to overtime in the Super Bowl. The San Francisco 49ers have something to be proud of, though. They finished the season as the runner-ups, and they finished the season as the reigning defending NFC champions, as they represented the NFC in the Super Bowl. So, without further ado, I'll be sharing which team I do believe is the biggest threat to them in the NFC Conference this upcoming season. And like I did a few weeks ago when I did this segment for the AFC, I'll share which team I do believe is the biggest threat and the two honorable mentions moments later after I share my biggest threat to the 49ers. So, without further ado, I do believe that the biggest threat to the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC this upcoming season is the team that they played in the NFC Championship, the Detroit Lions. I mean, the Detroit Lions were just 3 points away from making their first ever Super Bowl appearance in franchise history. Hell, in the NFC Championship, they did blow a 17-point lead, and they did have mistakes that opened the door for the 49ers to get back into the ball game, and the rest is history. But the Lions are a completely different franchise now. I mean, they won their first playoff game in over 30 years last NFL season when they beat the Rams in the wild card. They went to the divisional round to beat the Buccaneers. Things have changed around for the better in Detroit for football. And they have no reason not to believe in them this upcoming NFL season, because they still have Jared Goff. He has proven that he is a durable guy in terms of being trustworthy to get you to the promised land, get you where you need to be in the playoffs. He has a good track record in the playoffs. He's been to the Super Bowl before. He knows how to win big-time ball games in the playoffs. So they still have Jared Goff. They are also bringing back Ben Johnson, who, in my opinion, is one of the best offensive coordinators in the National Football League. They just re-signed their number one wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They still have their young tight end, Sam Laporta. They still have the 1-2 punch at the running back position of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, business is booming for this Detroit Lions team, and I got to look at this team as well. They also added more depth to their defense. The defense was the weakness of this team last year. They added 4 new defensive starters to this roster. They also traded for Carlton Davis, a good cornerback that used to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that's going to help with their secondary. That was one of their biggest flaws in the defense last year. So the Lions look like they're ready to set up shop and get back to where they left off. And I have to say they're the biggest threat to the 49ers heading into this upcoming NFL season. And also, I should touch up on they also addressed their offensive line and touched up on their offensive line and improved that as well. So, yeah, I am really looking forward to seeing how the Lions come out and to their approach early on in the season. But I do believe they are the biggest threat to the 49ers. Now, let's move on to my honorable mentions. I do have 2 honorable mentions here. Honorable mention number 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I do believe that the Philadelphia Eagles will be one of the heavyweight contenders in this NFC conference. Howie Roseman and the Eagles front office did everything in their power to improve this team this NFL offseason. The only downfall was they lost Jason Kelce. And unfortunately, Jason Kelce decided to retire. But that was really their only downfall this NFL offseason, because they stacked this team up from top to bottom, across the board, and in terms of players, coaching department, you name it. This Philadelphia Eagles team is way better than on paper than what they were a season ago. And it seems like Howie Roseman and the Philadelphia Eagles front office has prepared this roster not to have the same downfall that they had last year when they started off with 11 wins and 1 loss, and then lost control of the NFC conference for the race for the number 1 seed, lost control of the NFC East division, and then got booted out of the wild card round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it seems like they're ready to rumble in this NFC conference, and I'm looking at what the Eagles did. They added Kellen Moore, who used to be the former offensive coordinator for both the Cowboys and the Chargers, but he's known for his time with the Dallas Cowboys, because when Kellen Moore had the play sheet for my Dallas Cowboys, I mean, we were putting up 30-plus points year in and year out. They had a good chemistry going of what they did offensively. Dak Prescott and Kellen Moore being former teammates, then turning into a relationship of player and coach. That offense was booming. So I know Kellen Moore is smart enough to get this Philadelphia Eagles offense where it needs to be. They also added defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is a great defensive-minded guy. I don't know what happened in Miami, why he's not there anymore, but he's found a new home in Philadelphia. He knows what it takes to win Super Bowls and have an elite caliber defense. And they also added Saquon Barkley. Brought him in free agency, lured him away from a divisional rival in the New York Giants. And now you add Saquon Barkley behind one of the greatest offensive lines in the National Football League. And then their defense, they added Bryce Huff, the pass rusher. They also added Devin White, a linebacker that I do believe still has a lot to prove, but is a good sideline athlete, and I think he's going to make a lot of plays. C.J. Johnson is back with this team on defense, and they drafted well. So I have to say the Eagles are definitely an honorable mention as well. They're right behind the Lions, in my opinion, to the biggest threat of the 49ers. And my final honorable mention is, of course, my Dallas Cowboys. Now, I had to add the Dallas Cowboys in here due to the fact that they have went 12-5, 12-5, and 12-5 3 years in a row, but have really nothing to show for it, unfortunately, playoff-wise. But I have to say they're going to be a heavyweight contender in this NFC conference behind the Eagles and the Lions and the 49ers to start off the season. Again, we got a long season ahead of us. But right now, I have to say we're an honorable mention to those other respective teams because Dak Prescott in the regular season knows what it takes to get the Cowboys in position to be, I should say, good seeded wise for the playoffs, because we know the man is 2-5 in the postseason. But I have to say they're threats in the NFC because they're successful in the regular season. 3 straight 12-5 seasons with 2 NFC East division titles. I got to put them right where they are as the final honorable mention to the 49ers. But I think things are going to be interesting here because you have the Cowboys who can't beat the 49ers, unfortunately. They are a kryptonite. But the Cowboys and Eagles, that rivalry goes either way. And, of course, the Cowboys and the Lions put together a really special game last year that ended in had a controversial ending to it. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. But in my particular order heading into this season, the Lions are the biggest threat to the 49ers. The Eagles and the Cowboys are my honorable mentions in teams that could give the 49ers a run for their money. But that is my thoughts on who will be the biggest threat to the 49ers heading into this upcoming NFL season.